Hello everyone, welcome back to our video lesson of TOEFL preparation. And I'm Mr. Aris, and we will also work with Miss Hani in your class. And we are from English Tutor Samarinda. So on the last video, we worked on the strategies for listening part A comprehension. So let's have a review on the strategies in the key strategies in listening part A. So this is still an introduction video to introduce you on the format of the test in listening and also the key strategies. So the full and more detailed discussion on the strategies will be started next week. So let's have a recap on the strategies in listening comprehension part A. So remember, part A is 30 short conversation. Short conversations, one short conversation is followed by one question. So the key strategies are, there are three. The first one was focus on the second line. The second one is find answers with synonyms, because you have to keep in mind that the correct answer is probably a restatement of a keyword or idea in the second line of the conversation. And you have to remember that certain structures and expressions are tested regularly in listening part A. So later on, in a more detailed discussions, in the next meetings, we will work on how to recognize the structures, functional expressions, and idiomatic expressions in listening part A. And we have to remember that the questions generally progress from easy to difficult. You have to read the answers and choose the best answer to each question. And even if you do not understand the complete conversation, you can find the correct answer by choosing answers with restatements of keywords and ideas. Choose answers with the most different sound, and never choose answer with similar sound. Also remember the special tricks. When you do the test, when you do the official test or the tryout, you can ignore the directions or skip the directions and look ahead at the answers. Remember, understanding answers or reading answers ahead can help you to concentrate more on the audio or the recording. So you don't need to listen and read answers at the same time, or you shouldn't read and listen at the conversations at the same time. You have to focus on the keywords on the second line, and verbs are usually the keywords. And then you should find synonyms of the keywords or idea of the last line in the conversation. And here you are reminded again, don't listen and read the answers at the same time, because listening part A is a short conversation. You need a greater focus. You need a good concentration. If you listen and read at the end the answers at the same time, you will not be able to concentrate well, because you cannot focus on listening and reading the answers at the same time, and the conversation is short. Now let's go to strategies for listening part B and part C. So listening part B and part C are in the same heading or have the same strategies because the format is quite similar. Part B is a longer conversation. Let me show you the format of the conversation first for part B. So part B is a longer conversation. It's usually 4 to 5 lines. And for part B and part C, one conversation or one talk will be followed by several questions. Different with part A. In part A, a short conversation is followed by one question. But in part B and part C, longer conversation and a talk will be followed by several questions. So later on your answer, on your question book, you will read 4 questions for 1 conversation. And then you will read the answers, and the format is still the same. It is multiple choice, and you have to choose between A, B, C, or D. So remember, it is different from part A. So part B, 1 longer conversation will be followed by several questions. There are usually 8 questions in part B. So 1 longer conversation followed by 4 questions. And there will be another longer conversation, which is also followed by 4 questions. Now let's go back to the key strategies in part B. Now the key strategy in part B, the first key strategy is, if you have time, review the answers to the listening part B question and do the following. So it is very important for you to preview the answers. So remember, there will be 4 questions and there will be 4 set of answers. So you have to understand by anticipating the topics and anticipating the questions. So you can anticipate the topics by studying the keywords in the choices of the answers. Okay, so remember, there are 4 questions that is going to follow 1 longer conversation. And you can also anticipate the topics by understanding the keyword of the answers. The covered topic for part B is a conversation between students and teachers, students and librarians, between people, and it usually happens in a university setting. Now you do this before you do the listening. So try to preview the answers before the recording is played. Now, when the listening starts, listen carefully to the first line of the conversation. Why? Because there is usually a question of topic. What is the topic of the conversation, or what is the topic of the talk? And you will generally find the topic of the conversation or talk in the first line of the conversation or talk. So that's why it is important for you to listen carefully to the first line of the conversation. Now, while listening, try to draw a conclusion about the situation of the conversation, who is talking, where and when it takes place or happens. So we do this to anticipate questions of who, where, and when. It is very common in part B that the question will ask you who is talking, where does it take place, and when the conversation takes place or happens. So by drawing conclusions, you anticipate answers, and also you anticipate these questions so you can be more ready to answer these kinds of questions. Number 4, which is also very important, is to follow along with the answers in your textbook and try to determine the correct answer. Follow along with the answer in your textbook and try to determine the correct answer. Why it is important to follow along? Because the answers of the part B and part C will be in order. So, number 1, answers will be located in the first part of the conversation and talk. The next number will be in the next part of the conversation. The third number will be in the next part of the conversation. So it is not usual or common to find number 1 answer in the last part of the conversation. So you can follow along with the answers in your textbook while also listening to the audio and try to determine the correct answer. You should guess even if you are not sure. Remember, never leave any answers blank because there is no penalty in getting incorrect answers. And remember, Guessing is also important, but try to guess intelligently by eliminating obviously incorrect answers. For part A listening comprehensions, you can choose the most different sounds. But for part B and C, it is different because most of the detailed answers are in the same words. So you are suggested for part B and C listening comprehensions that you choose similar sounds, not the different sounds. This is the trick for part B and part C questions. Now let's do the exercise and remember to use any remaining time to look ahead. If you have a remaining time, try to understand the next answers from the questions, which is written in the textbook. So this is the transcript of part B. Okay. Now we can see here that the answers of the questions will be in order. The question of who is the man can be easily found in the first part of the conversation. So the man said, "Hello, Professor Denton." So the woman said, "Come in, my dog." So we can guess that the man is a student, right? And then the question of when does the man come to see Professor Denton will be found in the second part of the conversation. These are my office hours, and this is the right for you to come and ask questions. And it is written here is during office hours, the similar words from the conversation that we have read. And also it is in order. So the number one question is in the first part and the second number of question in the next part. And question number 3, why does he come to see Professor Denton? Can also be found in the next part up to number 2. Well, I have a quick question for you about the homework assignment for tomorrow. I thought the assignment was to answer the first 3 questions at the top of page 67. So it talks about page number, and here it is said that he is here to ask a question. Okay, I have a quick question. All right, so we can choose answer B to ask a question. Again, it is in order after number 2, right? You can find the location of number 3's answer in the next part of number 2. And then for number 4, what incorrect information did the man have? So the man talks about the page number. It is also the similar word as in the conversations. So talk about page number, page. Okay, so part B is a longer conversation, but you can find the answers in order on the conversation. So it is very important to follow along, to follow the listening and follow the answers. And you can give a mark on your answer sheet, okay, on what is probably the correct answer. And usually the correct answer has the same word with the conversation. Okay. Now let's try to do the exercise. Let's do the first strategy, previewing answers. Try to understand the words, try to anticipate the topic, and try to anticipate the questions. So remember, part B is a longer conversation. It can be 5 to 6 lines, followed by several questions, usually 4 to 5 questions. Now let's listen to part B, and then let's answer the questions.
Conversation 1. Questions 1 through 5. Listen to the following conversation about a part-time job.
I'm looking for a part-time job on campus.
Then you've come to the right place. The Campus Employment Office is here just to help students like you find jobs on campus.
I'm glad to hear that, because I really need to start earning some money.
Let me ask you some questions to help determine what kind of job would be best. First of all, How many hours a week do you want to work?
I need to work at least 10 hours a week, and I don't think I can handle more than 20 hours with all the courses I'm taking.
And when are you free to work?
All of my classes are in the morning, so I can work every weekday from noon on. And of course, I wouldn't mind working on the weekends.
I'll try to match you up with one of our on-campus student jobs. Please fill out this form with some additional information about your skills and leave the form with me today. Then you can call me back tomorrow and maybe I'll have some news for you.
Thanks for your help.
Number 1. What does the man want to do? Number 2. Where does the conversation probably take place? Number 3. How many hours of work does the man want per week? Number 4. When can the man work? Number 5. What does the woman tell the man to do tomorrow? Conversation.
All right, so let's discuss it together. So that was a longer conversation, right? Followed by 5 questions. And the topic was about, yeah, somebody or a student looking for a job on campus. So that's why we can easily answer question number 1. Okay, so the question was, what does the man want to do? Right, so he said that I'm looking for a job, okay, on campus. So the answer is find work on campus. This is also a type of questions or type of answers that answers the question of what is the topic. So even though that the question was not what is the topic, but we can anticipate this answer by understanding the key words from the answer. So yes, the answer is A. So it's also the topic of the conversation is a student looking for a job on campus or find work on campus. And then for number 2, the question was, where does the conversation take place? So remember, question of who is talking, where does the conversation take place, and when does the conversation take place are common question in part B. So we can anticipate these answers, okay? And then we can choose the answers C, right? So the best answer is C because the woman said, and you come to the right place. The campus employment office is the place for students to find information about job on campus. And then for number 3, how many hours does the man can do the job? So there were 2 information, at least 10 hours and no more than 20. So we have to be careful, okay? Don't choose B, it's not at least 20, but at least 10, right? So the best answer is Charlie. The best answer is C, no more than 20. So if we remember the strategy, okay, so most of the answers are in the same word, right? On find work on campus, campus employment office, no more than 20. Okay. And for number 4, when can the man work? And the man said he doesn't mind working at noon, right? And then also on weekends. So the best answer is B, afternoon and weekends. And what does the woman tell the man to do tomorrow? So there were 2 things. The woman asked the man to fill out a form now, okay, when he was in the office, and tomorrow the woman asked him to call her, call me back tomorrow. So we can easily choose answer D, right? So the best answer is to phone her. The synonym of call me is to phone her. So this is the answer for number 5. All right, so that is how you can answer question in part B, longer conversations. So you have to understand the answers, okay, ahead before listening, and try to anticipate topic and anticipate questions. And while listening, you follow along. While listening, you can read answers and try to listen at the same time. But remember, the answers are in order. So number 1 will be in the first part of the conversation. Number 2 will be in the next part. Number 3, the next part. Number 4, the next part. And number 5 is in the last part of the conversation. So it is not common for the answer of number 5 is found in the first part of the conversation, because that won't be in order. So remember, the answers of part B and part C are in order, so you can follow along. So while listening, read the answers, and you can give a mark on your answer sheet or on the textbook. And later on, listen to the questions or read the questions and choose the best answer based on the conversation. Okay. You can let us know if you have any questions in the discussion section in the classroom later, or you can also send us or make a discussion topic in Canvas. Now let's go on with the format of part C, but before that we have special tricks, sorry. So looking ahead is very important in part B and part C, understanding the answers of the questions to anticipate topic and anticipate questions. Drawing conclusion about who, what, and where. Remember, these are common questions in part B. So while listening, try to imagine the situation of who is talking, what is the topic, and then where the conversation takes place. And as I told you before, the answers sound the same. The answers sound the same. And mark on the answer sheet if you can, because when you follow along, you want to give a mark so you won't forget on your choices of answers. Listens for answer in order. And remember that the answer of the detailed information in part B and part C are in order. Follow along with the answers while listening. Remember, because the answers are in order, you can follow along while listening to find the correct answers or anticipating answers from the conversation. Now let's go to the format of the test of part C. So the transcript of part C will be like this. So part C is not a conversation. Part C is a talk. It means one person talking in a long term. It is usually a university professor explaining a course subject. Okay. And the same as part B, it will be followed by 4 questions like this. Okay, 4 or 5 questions. All right. Now we are going to do the exercise. The strategies are the same. Review the answers to anticipate topic and anticipate questions. And remember, the answers are in order. You can follow along while listening and try to guess the answers first. And then later, listen to the questions and choose the best answer based on the questions and the conversation. And the difference is, it is one person talking in the long term. And what makes it challenging, because it is usually a university lecture, the word or the vocabulary choices are more formal, more academic. So you have to be more familiar with academic words and academic vocabularies. Now let's listen to the recording.
Talk 1. Questions 1 through 5. Listen to a talk given by a professor.
Welcome to Biology 101. I'm Professor Martin, and this is your laboratory assistant, Peter Smith. This course meets twice a week for lecture and once a week for laboratory assignments. The text for this course is Introduction to Biological Sciences by Abramson. You should get the text and read the first chapter before the next class. You will also need to get the laboratory manual that accompanies the text. I've passed out a copy of the course syllabus. This syllabus lists the reading assignments and exam dates. Note that we will cover one chapter a week for each of the next 15 weeks in the semester, and there will be 3 exams throughout the course. Grades in this course are based on your exam grades and your grades on the laboratory assignments. Are there any questions?
Number 1. When does this talk probably take place? Number 2. How often will Professor Martin give lectures? Number 3. What is the assignment for the next class? Number 4. What information is given in the syllabus? Number 5. What will the professor use to determine the final course grades?
All right, now let's discuss the answers together. For number 1, the question is, when does the conversation probably take place? So from the conversation, or from the talk, so the university lecturer said that, welcome to Biology 101. Welcome to Biology 101. So we can guess the answer is Charlie, right? C, on the first day of class, because you don't say welcome unless it is the first day of the class. So we can tell that for number 1, the answer is C. For number 2, how many classes in a week? So the answers, the information were 2. There was 2 times for a class and 1 time for laboratory assignment. So the classroom is twice a week. The answer is bravo, B, 2 times a week or twice a week. And what is the assignment for the next class? So from the information in the conversation, the university lecturer, the professor, asked the student to read the first chapter of the text, which is 1 chapter of the text, right? So almost the same. So the answer is D. And what is the information in the syllabus? So the information is containing the reading assignment. Okay, the answer is C. And exam dates, but there is no exam dates here, only reading assignment. And then what is the criteria of the grade. So there were two. The students have to do examination and also laboratory assignment. So the exam and the lab work are the answer for the criteria of the assessment. So it's examination and laboratory assignment or lab work. So the best answer is alpha. So we can conclude that the answers in part C are also in order. Most of the answers words are the same. So you can follow along and try to keep a mark on the answers while following along. And later you can confirm on your guesses on the answers by listening to the questions and try to choose the best answers of the questions. But of course, test taking strategies themselves are not enough. You have to improve on your vocabulary knowledge, your grammar knowledge to increase your listening comprehension. So these test taking strategies will help you to concentrate better, to do the task carefully, and to do the task more quickly, in hopes that you can improve your score by getting as many as correct answers as possible. If you have any questions, you can let us know later in the classroom discussion or also in the discussion part in the LMS Canvas. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.